The Standing Rock Sioux Tribe's protest of the Dakota Access Pipeline, or DAPL, is beginning to look like a shakedown for money. More about that below, but first, while I have grave reservations, no pun intended, about fracking, and leftist lunatic protests notwithstanding, I view the oil industry as a dinosaur soon to be displaced by finally economic photovoltaic cells and the budding nickel hydride reactors, the main narrative about the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation's protests of the Dakota Access Pipeline is mostly false. They claim that it's about protecting the tribe's water source because their current Missouri River water intake is only 20 miles from the pipeline. What didn't come out until recently is that in 2009, the tribe got almost $30 million to build a new water treatment plant, pump station, and 5 million gallon storage tank 70 miles away. Additionally, the pipeline will run 90 feet beneath the river bottom, so any leaks in the proximity of the river are unlikely to contaminate the river. But it's possible, in a worst-case scenario, the contamination could be a plume of several thousand barrels. The probability of there being a significant leak like that in the proximity of the river, or even just 50 barrels, is extremely low. Using figures from Dr. John Stanbury's very pessimistic 2011 analysis of frequency, magnitude, and consequence of worst-case spills from the proposed Keystone XL pipeline, and in his definition, he used 50 barrels of oil as a worst-case scenario. The expected frequency of significant spills would be 0.00109 spills per year per mile, resulting in 91 major spills, remember that's by his definition 50 barrels, over a 50-year design life of the pipeline, close quote. And that's over the entire length. But let's assume a worst-case scenario. All the stars align and it dumps tens of thousands of gallons of oil into the river. It's possible. Before that happens, both the tribe and the pipeline people might want to talk to Origin Clear, a company that specializes in cheaply turning frack water into crystal clear drinkable water. Mitigation aside, and that's what it would be, a mitigation, pipeline opponents will say any risk is too great and we should all abandon oil and learn to live without. Yes, well, I drive less than 3,000 miles a year, and I invite all the protesters who drove their cars or rode on trains, planes, and buses to get there to stop being hypocrites and start walking. If you're not willing to walk your talk, then you're a big phony. Would we be better off if we could find a way to live without oil or to live with less oil? I don't know, maybe. But I believe that investing to support alternatives is more effective and faster than protesting. That's what I do. Rather than complaining that oil is a problem, I support solutions. But the protesters would rather whine and complain. You don't see any of them driving on Teslas, do you? Of course, not that they could afford them. Unlike many on the left, I support the First Amendment, and I respect their right to bitch and moan. Trampling and destroying private property, blocking public roads? No. Making a spectacle of themselves? That's their right. Just don't violate the rights of others while you do it. Another popular meme that began with some anonymous tweets on Twitter that were quickly picked up by lefty websites is that, quote, DAPL was rerouted through Standing Rock because Bismarck's residents feared it could poison their drinking water, close quote. Yeah, right. According to Snopes, it's a lie. Quote, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, not the residents of Bismarck, considered and rejected an alternate route through the city in DAPL's early planning stages. The plan was quickly abandoned not because the Sioux were considered to be less valuable than their neighbors in Bismarck, but because the alternate route ran an additional 11 miles and included several more water crossings. Additionally, the decision to abandon that route came from a planning party and did not appear to have anything to do with one set of residents being heard while a second set was ignored, close quote. I'd also point out that Bismarck has a population of about 67,000 people in an area of about 20,000 acres, while the Standing Rock Reservation is 2.2 million acres and has a population of about 10,000. So its proximity of the pipeline to actual population centers, if they were to route it through Bismarck, would be very high, whereas routing it past, not on, but past the Standing Rock Reservation, it's very low. In a November 22, 2016 Bismarck Tribune article, continuing on with the fact that it had nothing to do with racism, Bismarck Mayor Mike Seminary was quoted as saying, quote, "Bismarck has never been involved in that discussion. Not one policymaker, not one department head, not one city employee has ever been involved in a discussion with regards to a route north of Bismarck," close quote. So there's no truth to the claim of racism. The tribe also claims that the Corps of Engineers did not engage in legally required consultation with the Standing Rock Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. Now, from personal experience, I know the Corps of Engineers' decisions can be dictated by politics. In 2001, I had the opportunity to interview a former Corps of Engineers employee who was the man in charge of the Mount St. Helens eruption cleanup. They assessed the damage to the Toutle River, the options for cleanup, and made their recommendations. Their report made it very clear that the proposed sediment retention structure, or SRS, was the worst of all options, and yet they chose the SRS. I asked him why. He explained that it was a political favor to cronies of Governor John Spellman. More money could be made by building the SRS than by letting the sediment drain into the sea and dredging to keep the rivers clear. So I'm sure that money and politics might dictate the Corps' decisions regarding the pipeline. However, in an August 2016 article, the Bismarck Tribune reported that it was the tribe and not the Corps that refused to participate in the mandatory consultations. Quote, "Dakota Access has a right to build this project," said Julie Fedorchak, chairwoman of the North Dakota Public Service Commission, adding that the company went through the proper permitting process and was granted approval. Commissioner Brian Kalk agreed. "These groups didn't come to our hearings," he said, expressing disappointment that tribal leaders didn't appear at that time to voice their concerns, close quote. So the tribe played fast and loose with the Corps of Engineers during their multiple efforts to engage with the tribe in the mandatory consultations. Meanwhile, thanks to the delays, oil continues to be shipped by train. Oil trains suffer frequent spills, and an oil spill into the river from a train is more likely than from a pipeline. So what's all the fuss really about? Maybe it's that they want their land back. One of their claims is that the pipeline is on unceded land that was a part of the Standing Rock Reservation under the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, a treaty which was later broken and land was taken. Now, that's true. They're absolutely right. But so what? The same argument can be and often is made by virtually every tribe in the country regarding the entire continent. The Cowlitz Aboriginal territory of my tribe encompasses an area that's about 2.1 million acres, which, while smaller than the Standing Rock Reservation of about 2.2 million acres, reservation 2.2 million acres, our territory was also unceded. Under the Homestead Act of 1862, Abraham Lincoln effectively stole our land from the Cowlitz people and gave it to the squatters who flocked to settle. Rightfully, it belongs to us. But the fact of the matter, as was covered by Rob Port during his interview with Tom Woods, is that we have no good choices, only pragmatic ones. Let's see, Rob Port, his blog is, I think, sayanythingblog.com. So we can go back 150 years and in the case of the Standing Rock make about 10,000 people whole and in the process violate the property rights of hundreds of thousands now, or we can move forward and work to be fair and just now and in the future. That's what my tribe's doing. Rather than dwelling on the injustices perpetrated against our ancestors and our tribe in the past, we're looking forward and working within the existing framework to benefit our people now and in the future. It's often said of tribes that we remember the 7 generations that preceded us and work for the 7 generations yet to come. So we don't forget what happened to our ancestors, but we don't let the injustices perpetrated against them stop us either. We don't serve the 7 generations to come by refusing to let go of past injustices. We serve them by working to build a better world for them and for ourselves. Is that what the Standing Rock are doing? Well, in a November 21st, 2016 Washington Examiner article, John Siciliano wrote, quote, "Sources privy to the discussion say a number of offers had been made to the tribe, including the installation of water quality sensors, construction of a freshwater storage facility to store water in case of a pipeline leak, and other means of ensuring water quality. The developers also offered to create a rapid response team to respond to environmental accidents, including emergency vehicles provided to Standing Rock tribal members. But what continued to throw a wall up in the discussions was the tribe's demand to receive a fee for shipping the oil," close quote. Now, the source of this claim is anonymous, so I file this under wait and see. But if it's true that the tribe is actually trying to shake them down for money, and that's what this whole protest is about, it's going to put a blemish on all tribal negotiations for years to come. My own tribe engages in regulatory consultations with the Corps and other agencies all the time. Now remember, I'm no longer on tribal council. I don't serve on any committees anymore, so I am absolutely not speaking for my tribe, just as a member who knows a lot about the processes. And I know that when we negotiate, we do so in good faith, as should be the case with all tribes. It's an established fact that the Standing Rock leaders did not participate in the consultation process. They jerked the Corps around. And in doing so, they manufactured this entire confrontation. Members of my tribe have even participated in the protests, and some may be there right now, snow notwithstanding, as are members of many other tribes. Leftist groups, meanwhile, have latched onto this to promote their anti-oil agenda. Oh, and by the way, the Standing Rock chairman owns a gas station. The more details that come out, the worse the protest looks. The time has come, it seems to me, for the protesters to pack it in and go home. While some of the police actions may have been too extreme, every act of violence, no matter who did it, falls squarely at the feet of the people who manufactured this confrontation, and they, I'm sorry to say, are the Standing Rock leaders.